Welcome to
the Reddit
Roundup.
What's the most amazing thing about the universe? The only way we can see the universe is from inside it. We will likely never possess any way of viewing our universe from outside its physicality. That in the grand scheme of things we are all immortal. Our organic cells will die, our consciousness will cease, and we will no longer be able to directly observe existence, but the atoms that make up our bodies will simply be new compounds. And if energy is neither created nor destroyed, if our atoms continue to be, we will eventually make up the building blocks of new compounds. Pieces of us will watch the sun swallow up Mercury and Venus. Pieces of us will watch supernovae and black holes and all sorts of cosmic phenomena. Perhaps even one day our atoms will return to a nebula, and the cycle will begin again. A new star is formed, new planets begin to orbit it, liquid water forms on a small green rock orbiting this star, and an intelligent species evolves to travel to marvel at the wonders of our universe. One of my favorite shows is Battlestar Galactica, and one of the quotes that stuck out to me was, "All of this has happened before, and it will happen again." I tend to think there's some truth to that. I've had a couple friends and my grandfather die this year, and as an agnostic I am processing death a bit differently from the rest of my family. I don't think of death as the ending, as a finality. I don't think there is an afterlife as most religions conceive of it. I think that in a weird way, we all live forever. This is one I thought about recently. I believe that Carl Sagan said that we, sentient entities, are a way for the cosmos to know itself. With this in mind, when we think about the end of our universe, whether it be through a big shrink, big cooling, or what have you, we get apprehensive. We probably will never see this end, many of us will be dead. Yet, we still get a cold fear in our hearts. We are also a way for the cosmos to fear its demise. If you were on a planet 65 million light-years away from Earth and had a really good telescope, you could see the dinosaurs. Whales are the biggest known creatures in the known universe. We are a long way off from truly understanding the origin and ending of the universe, but we have good theories, and time will see that knowledge refined into fact. This is because we live at just the right time. Remember how galaxies are actually flying apart? This movement is also accelerating. Galactic structures will fly apart faster and faster. They will eventually exceed the speed at which we could ever hope to travel. They may exceed or match the speed of light. But that means that light shining from these quickly receding galaxies will ever reach us, and no ship could ever catch up to them. They will not see cosmic background radiation. So you couldn't see them with any kind of telescope. You'd see stuff in your local group, and that's it, and you'd think that the universe is a foamy cluster of galaxies that has an ending. Future civilizations may never know the true nature of the universe and could think it finite. That every single random event since the dawn of creation, the birth and death of stars, planets and galaxies, the very genesis of life has led to you being here right now to ask this question. Imagine being transported to a parallel universe that was almost identical to our own. Somewhere out in the vastness of that universe, there is a tiny planet. This much is true in both universes. On this planet, there is a beach, and on that beach, there is a small stone. Once again, both universes are alike in this regard. Beneath that stone, however, there are several million grains of sand, and while they all are in precisely the same location in each universe, one of them, a tiny speck of particularly clear quartz, hewn from a larger hole millions of years before, has a single atom that is positioned a fraction of a femtometer differently than its twin in the mirror dimension. You may think that such an insignificant difference would label these two universes as being functionally identical, and you would be right. In fact, they are so similar that the multiverse has long since combined them into one reality. That single atom in that tiny speck of sand on that lonesome beach on a distant planet merely occupies two spaces at once, seeming to an outside observer to vibrate back and forth at a predictable rate. That every atom in existence seems to do the same is probably a coincidence. TL, Doctor, everything is buzzing. It must be true that either it didn't exist, then it did, or it has always existed. Hydrogen plus time equals people and planets. that somehow all the particles accumulated in a specific way and in specific quantities to give you conscious thought. That whatever our problems are, big or small, it won't matter in 1 million years, worse being a nuclear war or something. How young it is. People look at the universe being 13.7 billion years old and say that is ancient. That is nothing. Stars will continue to form for another 100 trillion years. Even after that, stellar remnants will exist for quadrillions of years. Black holes will still produce energy that can be used by intelligent civilizations for 10,100 years. Keep in mind, if biological life doesn't destroy itself, we will just keep getting more and more knowledge. It's probably a safe bet that within 500 years, which is nothing on universal timescales, we will be an interstellar species that has long ago transcended biology. There is no telling what our descendants will do for the remaining life of the universe. The 4 to 5 billion years of biological evolution of life on Earth will be looked at as an embryonic stage for endless quintillions of years of real life to begin post-biology. They will view the universe as their oyster, a place of infinite possibilities, while we are still just spending our days trying not to die and trying to avoid being punished by our brains with pain. Inanimate/non-living objects eventually form to make sentient, living beings that question their own existence and want to find facts about the process between the beginning of the universe to now, and even want to anticipate the future. All from some hydrogen shits floating around and doing stuff. There is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. Douglas Adams. That we just don't understand it. It could be flat, it could be irregular, there could be another one, it's growing at an exponential speed, it's invisible contents. We try to learn more about it using our earthly knowledge, but there is certainly more to it. It's like trying to wrap your head around eternity. That it doesn't exist to be observed. In fact, under different circumstances, all of its trillions of stars and planets and oceans and moons and mountains could exist for billions of years without ever being observed by anyone. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you loved, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. Carl Sagan. If you nut in space, you move backwards. Two possibilities exist: either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Arthur C. Clarke. Imagine, for the moment, that the universe began in a truly colossal flash of light. For the first several eons, there was little more than dust, slowly being drawn together by a combination of gravity and electromagnetism. Then, as stars formed and gave birth to planets, and as complex molecules came together, the beginnings of life emerged. At first, this life was incredibly simple, barely capable of surviving to reproduce, let alone contemplating its own existence. As the ages passed, though, it gave rise to more and more complexity, eventually resulting in beings who could look up at the stars that had birthed them and wonder, why? These creatures, driven by something they could scarcely comprehend, set about trying to define their place in the world and explain how they came to inhabit it. They began to believe. Like the organisms that had spawned them, these beliefs and suppositions grew and evolved. They incited terrible tragedies and sparked incredible developments, until the day that they finally fell away and were replaced by an ever-increasing awareness of the cosmos. However, the original drive, the desire to know and understand, remained, and it prompted the thinking creatures to combine their efforts in pursuit of an answer. The inquisitive explorers reached towards the stars once more. And when they did, they encountered other beings, not terribly unlike themselves. There were rough patches in these meetings, of course, but as each species learned to understand and cherish one another, they all compounded their perspectives in pursuit of their goal. A single, interlinked mind rose from the trillions of individual beings, just as their individuals' brains had risen from tiny connected cells. It took millennia, but the entity, having come to include every creature in the universe, finally found the answer that it sought. And yet, it was not wholly content. Through its expansive consciousness and unfathomable technology, it was able to know everything that ever was, wasn't, or would be. It could control the whole of existence with little more than a passing thought. And as it contemplated, it realized what it actually wanted. Space began to shrink in upon itself. Stars and planets were swept up in an invisible wake, being pulled inward at impossible speeds and across countless light years. It took eons more, but finally, all of the possibilities and all of the many celestial bodies were brought together in a single point, both infinitely dense and incalculably massive, yet persisting at a size seemingly too small to exist. Tiny adjustments were made and minute, but important, rules were put into place. But ultimately, the end result of the entity's influences would remain unknown. Then, there was a colossal flash of light. Planets formed. Life arose. Creatures scurried through the world. Battles were fought, love was found, and an entire history was written across an infinite number of unique minds. Some of those minds delighted in sharing their stories, while others wanted nothing more than to hear them. Remember to listen. TL, Doctor, we are the universe entertaining itself. That's it for this time. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.